Hey, what is up, my friends? Today we are going to go over how to make some stacking sculptures with our goal being how to emphasize our surface techniques. What everyone is going to do is essentially build around an internal form. This is not a very traditional practice, but this is one that allows you to kind of bypass some very traditional technique and allow you to build with scale. It's a lot of fun. You can be really aggressive with it, and it should be like a good way to start learning about the different properties of clay, stages of clay, and also how to build things that are a little bit more monumental than you've been able to do in the past. So we're going to start off, we're all going to grab one of these tubes. With these tubes, we are going to end up wrapping our clay around it, and how you wrap that is going to be up to you. But one of the things we're all going to need to think about is how we stop that clay from sticking onto it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some newspaper, and I'm just going to fold it until I have just about the right size for it. Doesn't need to be perfect, but we want to get it pretty close. All right, once I'm close, we're going to wrap this piece up. So again, I'm going to take that newspaper, wrap that core up, take a little bit of masking tape. And I do mean little, we don't want to go crazy with it because less tape is better in terms of how the clay behaves. Just trust me on this one. All right, once I have this wrapped up once, then essentially what I have to do is create some form of a barrier. So for us, we're going to get some plastic bags. Right, we have our plastic bags all throughout the studio. If you have a form that has an open top or not a lid, that's what I'm going to suggest, is having your open side facing up. If I grab a recycled bag right here. All right, now I'm going to come from the bottom, and I'm going to tuck all my excess plastic right back inside. Again, we just want to coat that exterior with that plastic. I can try to get some of that air out, just so it doesn't start to alter my form. And then I'm going to repeat that same process. Again, grab a piece of newspaper, figure out how much I need to fold it or cut it. See what I'm doing, just about perfect. Bit more masking tape. Now if you have, for one that's this scale, which is about 8 inches tall, if you have a layer of newspaper, a layer of plastic, and then a layer of newspaper again, that is more than enough. If you want to get a thicker form or a wider form, just put more newspaper, right? Build it up. You can also do a foam, but the main thing we're thinking about is we need to be able to take that internal core out as well as all the newspaper before it enters the kiln. So that's where we're going to kind of focus our preparation energy. Once we have that set, I say grab a banding wheel and we're going to grab 4 pounds of clay. For each of these pieces, we're going to be at that 4-pound mark. Pop that on my scale, right at that 3.5 on that piece. Close enough. All right, so we're going to set that to the side. I'm going to grab that banding wheel in a second, but for me, I'm going to form a slab, right? And as I said, it's up to you on how you want to actually build your form. You could literally just start taking slabs of pieces of clay, right? You could pinch out forms, start pressing them along the sides, and as long as you score in spray as you attach every piece to itself, that would be a totally fine way to build a form like this. Coiling, right? That's another option. Just coil right around that exterior. If you're doing this type of coiling where you have this internal core, make sure again you do your scoring because you're not able to work, compress, and melt the interior of it. I prefer using a slab because I find that it's just the simplest. So again, I'm just gonna pound out, toss out this slab a little bit. This clay is a little bit stiffer than my typical clay, but it's just because we're demoing and it's nice to kind of use up some of those scrap pieces in the clay. Again, I'm gonna pound, I'm gonna compress, and then I'm just gonna toss that clay back and forth until I stretch it out enough. I am gonna be thinking about my overall height though, before I get going. All right, so from there, we're just tossing. If I start to get off as I toss, take that little second just to make those corrections, right? Control those edges as always. So again, I can kind of put a piece up to it, see how I'm doing for height, and I'm pretty much perfect. You can also see how close I am to wrapping it around, and I'm very close right there. So just a little bit more in length. We'll have it. Test one more time. Comes up. This piece will wrap around there, and there we go. All right, so I'm going to cut my edges. I'm going to do my scoring. All right, as I always say, remember to keep your angle the same. The easiest way to kind of break it down is as you go to cut your angles, don't move your slab, don't move your body. Do a straight cut down, go to the other side, don't change the angle of your blade, straight cut down. Right, we got those two. Break out some type of a tool to do your scoring. Really love these little guys here. All right, score those sides. Underside as well. All right, from there, I'm going to spritz. All right, as I give that a second to set up, I'll go and get that banding wheel. Again, I always like to remove any of that pooling water. So here we go, back at it. Got my form, got my slab, that should be just about that right height. I have a bat as well, right? So I don't have to pick my form up again. Everything can get spun around as we moved it. And later on, I can just lift that whole piece by the bat as I wrap it up. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna stand that slab up. Twist that around, right? And it's okay if it's not perfect. I can always kind of make my cuts, my adjustments as it goes. And as it stands, it actually is pretty spot All right, so we're just going to allow that clay to overlap, make that connection. All right, and there we have it. We have our core, our tube, right? This one I can just smooth over a little bit, but I'm honestly not going to go crazy because this is really going to depend on what we're doing for a surface texture, right? So what you're going to do is make 3 of these. You are going to do one at a time though, right? So I don't want to juggle 3 of them at once. For each piece, we're going to have a different approach. One of them, you're going to be adding material to it. So the challenge is, what can you add in order to give this a surface? So taking fresh clay, creating textures with that clay, and putting that clay on as if it's a facade. That second task that you have to do is to remove clay, right? So what techniques, what tools can you use to start removing clay from this material in order to transform that surface? And that last technique that you need to experiment with is how do you stretch, meld, impress, using some type of an action. How do you get, without adding clay, without removing any clay, how do you get this form to have a very transformative, kind of dynamic surface? So that's going to be the challenge. You are going to make 3 separate ones of these, and in the end, they're going to stack one on top of the other so that you can form either a sculpture or potentially even something like a lamp base. Totally up to you. All right, welcome back, my friends. So here we have it. We have our form that has been made. I am just going to clear off this surface just a tiny bit in terms of where its seam was at. And I do like using these kind of stiffer ribs to start, right? And it's just because I want like a nice kind of even, smooth, more of a homogeneous surface to work with, right? And now I'm going to start demoing things like texture. So that first challenge that you guys have is additive, right? How do we take clay, develop a texture, and add that onto the piece? One of my favorite textures that I can get off of clay is just from tearing it, just from ripping it, right? And nice stonewares can kind of go a long way. This is a paper clay, so it does tend to fight itself as well. So you get these beautiful actions, these beautiful rips, the same way as that stoneware. So for this process, this technique, I'm just going to start tearing my clay. We'll start ripping it in half, folding it over, smushing it down, pounding that into the table. And essentially, I'm going to take this surface. I'm maybe going to try to go up. Hopefully you can see that pretty tight right there, right? So this crunchy, crumbly, torn up edge. Right, that's what I'm looking for the facade, for the aesthetics on the exterior of this piece. If I'm trying to adhere it, that first thing that I need to do is just think about how it's getting joined together. So you want to go pretty over the top when it comes to scoring the form. Now I usually don't score the whole form at once, especially if it's going to take me a while to get this texture on there. So I'm just going to do what I think I can handle in that work session, right? Score it up. Again, water is your friend, spritz it. Then from there, I'm going to take these textures that I was developing. I'm going to take my knife, right? And I'm just going to start cutting those textures off. Now for you, I would hope that you experiment, right? Go try to find some different textures that interest you. Play with that clay, right? See what tools leave different impressions on it. See what happens as you stretch the clay, as you drop the clay, as you kind of push your fingers into the clay. There's no right or wrong. Just have fun and really just explore and be as observant as you can to how the material is behaving. One of the tricks to finding a lot of success within this technique is to really not try to dictate what the clay does, but figure out what the clay does and then use those properties to the best of your abilities. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to now take these little facades that I made, I'm just gonna do a little bit of scoring on them. Right? For me, these can kind of be in all different thicknesses or thinnesses. Right, so a couple more. Right, so I'm just gonna start with those few. Again, I'm gonna make sure that my backside is 100% scored. We already spritzed our form. When I do these textured facade type pieces, I tend to not make like one little chunk at a time or one little textural moment, but I do a whole series of them. And then I will spend a couple of minutes actually applying them. So I have a handful. We're just gonna play with those handfuls just so we can start to see what this is gonna look like. Right? As I apply it, I'm gonna do my best to not alter my texture that I'm trying to apply and put on there. Right? But let's just say we're kind of building it up. Maybe just one or two more little pieces here. Now your task is going to be to transform this entire surface. In other words, this internal core, I will not want to see anymore. So you're gonna focus, what I'd imagine would be 2 to 3 class periods on just developing this texture. Right, so just building this texture up, applying it, making sure that you're using the proper technique. And then once you're at that stage, then you're gonna remove that internal core. Again, so I just have a couple more of these guys. We'll join them, and then I'm gonna call it a day. I got students in the classroom. Y'all are welcome to pop on in. I'm dead serious. You guys can come in.